You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to yet again another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Coming to you live right here on all your favorite social media accounts. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
I don't know who I am anymore.
he's lost.
I don't know.
He's lost out there in the ether.
Having a crisis of identity.
It's okay, man.
Who am I?
We'll help you get it back.
Who am I?
Nobody knows quite who or what they really
You are a white male. I can tell you that part.
That is not who I am. It
That-
may be what I am, but it's not who I am.
That's the only identifier that matters, Keith. You should know that.
I am a being.
A being of light.
I am that I am.
Oh, I'm not that.
Whoa. It's like good.
That's a little sacrilegious.
Hello and welcome. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Of course, we are live on all your favorite social media networks. That's right. Rumble included. We're still live on Rumble.
Yay!
Yeah.
Rumble in the jungle.
Still paving ways for Red Moon Productions to claim all the social media networks.
All of the social media.
So, with that being said, we got a great show for everybody tonight. Another Oscar review.
Yeah, we do.
We're just nipping away at all those Best
Yeah.
Picture noms.
We don't have many left now.
We don't have many. 3 to go.
Yep.
Getting down to the
Which is
wire.
funny
That's
because
it.
Oscars are in about 4
4
weeks.
weeks.
4 weeks.
About 4
I
weeks,
mean,
I'd
There
say.
he is.
yeah.
Oh,
From Sunday.
Was the
The
flag?
was
It's,
just covering up his face a
Oh,
little bit.
Yeah.
yeah. You gotta watch that, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
There it is.
with as shameful as the Oscars have become, maybe we should hide its face with the American flag. It's like, look.
I want it up high like that.
There, oh.
There
yeah.
we go.
Yes.
Oh,
There it
yeah.
is. Oh, look at it.
You would never see an Oscar statuette holding an American flag at the real Oscars.
No, not
No.
anymore. Nope. Couldn't do that. Nope. But you know what? We carry on and we continue to give
Carry
them
on my wayward son.
criticism where it is due, and we continue to rate these movies as we see them. I think we're going to have an interesting discussion on this movie. It's going to be a good one.
Okay.
Should we just dive into it? We got great headlines
Oh, this
coming.
is our only review, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I forgot because I know we have some new releases where we've had to double up, but yeah.
No, yeah. This is our only review this
Yeah,
week.
I mean, I don't. Small talk's over. Let's
I know.
go.
Well, no, I'm at least gonna to tease our what's to come later in the show, our headlines, and our multimedia segment.
Oh.
All right, so we've got. Let's see, our headlines are going to be discussing all the big trailers coming from. I don't want to say it. I don't want to get in trouble. The Big Game. All the trailers that dropped and came out during Taylor Swift's grand
Yeah.
extravaganza from Sunday night.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to talk about Disney losing some subscribers.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, they're still
Wow.
on the losing
They're
end
having
of
some trouble.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Even some old news with Iger getting caught with his hand in
Yeah,
the cookie
yeah.
jar.
Bobby said some things and some words.
Yeah.
Bobby.
We're pulling it. Oh, yep, not Bobby Kennedy.
No.
Although he had I don't know, Robert. They never called him Bobby.
No.
There was a Bobby Kennedy.
There was.
There
Yeah.
is, and technically Robert could be a Bobby.
He could be a
but he never went by Bobby, so I don't want to say that.
Rob. Good old Rob Ken.
His dad was Bobby
Yes.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Yep, exactly.
And that's why he doesn't go by it.
He wants
He's
to-
Robbie.
Robbie.
He's Robbie
He's Robbie.
Kennedy.
RFK Robbie Jr.
He's Bobbert.
Bobbert.
Bobbert Kennedy.
Weren't you offended by that ad?
No.
That was
yeah.
the worst ad I've ever seen.
I thought it was funny that he even
I was so offended.
apologized. He
To
had
his family.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, and he was
I
like, I had no
know.
control. I'm like, nobody took offense to that. Come
Yeah.
on.
Oh, apparently
that
his
was-
family did.
Well, that's because
Because
they're
they
all
already-
raging lefties.
So they
and
already
he's
hate
Yeah.
him.
not.
I said they already hate him, so they were going to take offense to it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, look, the Kennedys already are, I was going to say, heaven forbid his family turn on him and assassinate another one.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Sink him to the bottom of the Chappaquiddick.
No. Whoa. Hey-oh. Just dark cloud over that family. All righty.
He's gonna get Clinton.
Oh.
Epstein.
Epstein
Kennedy'd.
and Epstein.
I mean, that's where it's. I mean, you know,
he's gonna get Kennedy'd.
they're all different terms, but it's really all the same
Yeah.
people doing it.
Or
so
do we want to say Lincoln?
yeah,
Oh.
I mean, if we really want to go back to the OG.
it might go back
He's gonna
that
get
far.
Jesus.
Ooh, well,
No,
he's
that
no
would
Jesus.
that would imply that he's
Yeah.
some kind of savior. He's
Yeah.
not a moral savior.
Bobbert's not a Jesus.
He's gonna get betrayed
Yeah.
with a
Ooh.
kiss.
Look, we found small talk. Look at that.
Yeah, we
we did.
We always
It's in there somewhere.
there's always a way.
Yeah.
And then our multimedia segment goes
Nothing.
has nothing to do with anything movies related at all.
Maybe. I mean,
Bob
we're talking
Iger
about
was
American.
literally where this started.
Yep.
Yeah, Bob
And then we
Iger.
ended up down this like
It made no
Kennedy
sense.
rabbit hole. Like how in the hell?
Oh.
Kennedy. I like.
We
I
went
like
from
the
one
old school.
Bobbert to another. You know.
I thought it was a good for someone who's not made a splash in terms of public,
Yeah.
opinion or obviously put his face on like newscast.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought it was a good,
Oh, yeah.
hey, I'm out there. Especially for the Super Bowl to drop it right
His
there.
family's definitely made a splash before.
Yeah, well, ooh, that was good. That was good. I like that one. But no, we also are
Splash
talking
and
about
the
in our
splatter.
multimedia segment. We are talking about the video game industry. getting
Oh!
possibly
Well, yeah.
quite
Whoa!
a shakeup. Yeah, I know,
Wow.
imagine that. Be interesting.
Uh,
Are Xbox last days ahead of it? Is
No.
this the end? We'll see. Don't say nothing yet. We don't know.
Spoiler. No.
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in our
I'm gonna talk
multimedia
about
segment.
you.
That's right. But until then, we're going to get into our movie reviews and
Yeah,
our headlines discussion. So here is our review of the movie American Fiction.
The clock is ticking down as we grow closer to the 96th Annual Academy Awards show. With less than 4 weeks left, we dive into another of the Best Picture nominees, leaving us just 3 more to review. This week we have decided to tackle a film with the usual amount of praise for a Best Picture contender, but one that hasn't quite broken into the mainstream as some of the others have. American Fiction. Written and directed by Cord Jefferson and based on the novel Erasure by Percival Everett, American Fiction is the story of Thelonious Monk Ellison, played by Jeffrey Wright, an African-American writer and professor living in L.A. Monk is a man who considers himself an intellectual, and indeed he is intelligent, well-spoken, and a true academic. Unfortunately, while considered well-written academically, Monk's novels fail to sell well, with his latest novel being rejected by publishers for not being, quote-unquote, black enough. Placed on leave due to a dispute with a student over racial insensitivity, and outsold by author Santara Golden's novel, Weeze Lives in the Ghetto, Monk is frustrated by an industry that propagates black stereotypes for profit. Going back home to Boston, Monk reconnects with his family, where he writes a satirical version of the trite stereotype novels he despises, only to immediately be confronted with the dilemma that the novel he thinks is the worst thing he's ever written is the manuscript publishers want most from him. American Fiction was quite the surprise upon viewing. With Hollywood, you never know what to expect when it comes to a movie so cemented in race. Surprisingly, however, I found the overall themes and message one I could absolutely agree with. The film is very well written and directed, an impressive feat as this is Cord Jefferson's first ever theatrical film, though he has worked in television in the past. Jeffrey Wright as Monk gives a phenomenal performance deserving of his nomination that really drives the entire film, and truly helps sell its theme. The supporting cast likewise, from nominee Sterling K. Brown as Monk's brother Cliff, to Maya Lucretia Taylor as family housekeeper Lorraine, are all well acted. Unfortunately, however, while I agree with the movie's main message and the film is well made from a technical point of view, I must highlight some glaring downsides as well. The movie often feels like it contradicts itself, being a movie of two minds, speaking out against the stereotype of black Americans, yet firmly rooted at others in the leftist Hollywood mindset responsible for the propagated stereotypes in Hollywood. Monk is a man who wants to earn recognition because he deserves it, not because he is black. something that is admirable, to be judged on one's merit, not one's skin color. But in an attempt not to offend anyone, the movie plays devil's advocate frequently, showcasing that perhaps there is some fault in Monk's mindset, when there is not, nor should be. The movie makes fun of the upper elite and those with white guilt, who play up the worst black stereotypes not because they care, but because they are social justice warriors, assuaging their own conscience. It often does this hilariously, and its commentary is true, but fails to point out that it is the very people who have promoted and praised this movie that are the most guilty. American Fiction is a movie that almost gets it right, half amazing and half eye-roll inducingly cliched, bogged by the piss-poor Hollywood morality. Almost as if Jefferson wanted to tell the truth, but also knew he had to play nice with the Hollywood elites, and sadly this cuts the film's credibility. I would agree it deserves most of its nominations, and I honestly enjoyed it more than many of the other Best Picture nominees, but it still feels like a movie guilty of being a product of its time when it came so close to having something timeless to say. I give American Fiction 2.5 out of 4 stars.
All right, there is our review. Ooh, I love that smooth jazz. Taking us out of the review.
Jazz flute.
Piano.
Need to hear the jazz flute.
You said jazz flute piano. I was like, we're just gonna go with a whole ensemble?
Yeah.
Well, I heard piano and I said what I heard.
I was making fun of Anchorman.
He was. I was just saying what I heard.
I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get the Stream Deck going.
Okay.
So that you could have a soundboard over there.
Sound.
But no, let's dive into this. Let's talk about it a little bit. We've got our review here, 2.5 out of 4 stars for. Oh gosh, it popped up on the wrong.
This
screen.
was. I mean, I gave it 2.5. But I will say it is.
Game over, man.
There we go.
Game over.
That's right. There it is.
It works.
All right, so let's talk about this. What do we think about American Fiction? 2.5 out of 4 is from you, Keith.
Yeah.
Sean, what did you give it?
3.
3 stars.
Solid 3.
Okay. All right. I ended up settling on 2.5 as well.
Okay.
Very much on the cusp. I was going to go with 3. And it was only in the last 10 minutes, 15. I'm going to say 15 minutes of the movie that it dropped a half star for me. Just a few. I mean, the overall ending I enjoyed. I liked. I thought in terms of its messaging, it kind of got muddied at the end, maybe trying to either one, say too much, or one, be too ambiguous. And I felt like it didn't really find its footing in trying to settle on a specific thing that it should have done.
Kind of played two part, like,
yes.
two sides of
of the same coin, right?
Yeah.
Which is funny because that's how I put it in my review, that I felt like it was of two minds, where I think its overall themes and messaging was like the truth the director was trying to say, but there's certain parts of the film where I feel like he was trying to package it in this packaging that he knew Hollywood would accept, because obviously
It's just like,
which is honest, like kind of a metaphor for the movie itself, but I think it kind of does, like, I don't know, I just wish it would.
Well, that's the message that I agreed with.
Yeah, that is the message I agree with.
That's the message I was okay with. It was
and that's
the
message that ultimately carries, but there were just some instances there that I was just like, I wish they hadn't backtread on in those instances.
Right. Sean, I'll go ahead and let you speak since you gave it 3. What were some of your, praises and criticisms?
I'll start with the criticism. It's probably like the criticism overall was that I felt like the movie, like you said, it's definitely couldn't really. I don't know if it couldn't decide whether it wanted to be this family drama or whether it wanted to be a mouthpiece for the overall theme that it was going for, and I felt like it kind of towed both lines and went back and forth to the point where it didn't really seem like it knew what kind of film it wanted to be. I liked both messages. I loved his family drama. I loved the dynamic, and I loved the characters and how they related to one another.
Agreed.
I thought the acting was phenomenal. I found myself laughing and crying with the family multiple times. Especially even the like their maid or their
Lorraine got me the most.
That was I just thought that was so well done. I thought the setting having it, primarily take place at the, near the beach house in Boston. Like I just loved the aesthetic of the setting of where it was. But I felt myself pulled between his argument and I understood the way he felt that he did, but then it was kind of I wanted more of just the family drama. Mm-hmm. I would have been happy if it would have just been a movie about a writer that's struggling with some frustrations, but then this happens in his family and it just all starts to kind of fall apart, and he ends up being, this linchpin that holds his family together. Yeah. And I would have much more enjoyed that than it towing both of these lines of the family and the argument that he's trying to make. But I did agree with him 100%, and that was one of the things that really surprised me, and I guess that's one of the things that I loved the most about it. Is I went into it with a mindset that this is going to be an extremely racial movie. Yep. And that it's going to be something that's just going to poke fun at white people, and I felt like it did, but I felt like it is very specific from the get-go which kind of people this is poking at. And it wasn't a movie that I walked away from like some Spike Lee movies where you feel guilty that you're white. And it's like, this is a movie that I felt like, no, it very clearly points out the blue-haired fairy liberal social justice warriors are the ones that this is pointed at, the ones who have basically invented white guilt and applied it to themselves, so much so that they feel like they have to know the ins and outs of black culture just to feel like they're a part of it enough so that they don't feel bad about something they didn't have anything to do with. And I felt like that was really who the gun was pointed at in this movie, so much so that I agreed with everything he said and his feeling on it, and I understood. I'm like, there's so much more that, and I don't even want to say black people because that goes against the point of the film. There's so much that these people have to offer that it shouldn't be tied to the color of their skin. I hated the fact that he goes to a library and finds his own book in this small little cubby of a section called the African American author section. And I'm like, no, his book should have been with every other's authors. That's right. It shouldn't be segregated just because he's a black author, just like some of these, Academy Award winning directors. It shouldn't be just because she's the first female black or a black female director or whatever. She's just a good director. Right. If she is, that's debatable.
Well, and that's, I would say that's where it ultimately is kind of a knock on the chin of thinking that somehow you have to water down the achievement with, some form of, this person would not actually be able to live up to or rise to the standards of meritocracy, simply because they're at a disadvantage in this way. And I think that's exactly what this movie is confronting, is to simply say and put on its face. Like you said, I completely agree that what I loved most about the movie is the very opening scene. We get a picture of what he has to deal with in everyday academia, where he's a professor at, and instead of being taken seriously, it's kind of like it's even in that world, in that bubble, because he doesn't have the same point of view they do, as if he's a victim. He then has to be at odds with his own coworkers, and the other members that are the other faculty that are there, and it's like he's having to defend his own ideals of just his own educated, brain against this, this racism that's going on in this atmosphere. And, whether it's the student in his class or the faculty. But I also thought it was interesting that you then immediately see what he's like in his real family life. And I thought, what a beautiful juxtaposition to have the social politic happening in one instance of the film, to kind of set you up on, okay, we don't quite know what this film's going to be about. We know it's going to have some political overtones of what's going on socially and culturally, no doubt. But then, to throw you right into the seat of just his normal everyday life of how, him going back home, him dreading it because of, how he interacts with his family and what his family means to him, how he does love them, but he's always been distant. And you get even that understanding of him and his character, that character arc told throughout the movie of his feelings towards his family and why they are so. And it's just the beautiful family dynamic to simply say, oh, this isn't the ideal or this isn't the example of a black family. This is a family.
Yes, yeah.
And that to me was the brilliance of the story in a nutshell. You take this social, academic, crazy world, cultural, political thing that is telling you one message, and then it's completely juxtaposed against the message of, oh, wait, here he is in real life.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what he's fighting for, is not to be seen but with any particular identity other than just, I am a brilliant mind. Take me for my value in that regard.
From a normal working class family.
Exactly.
And
and also just to even have his sister who is a doctor, have his brother who is a plastic surgeon. I mean, it's simple. You could easily see, but also to show the dysfunction, not only within these brilliant families, but then even amongst like who their father was and how he was a genius, but then he had his own colored past, and yet you have the family who's at odds of how to handle that now that truths have come out, versus how the mom who's kind of struggling with senility and how she's dealing with it, and how she dealt with it throughout her life, and just beautiful dynamics in that regard. Like I said, where I really knocked off the half star was the director didn't fully come through. I'm going to say something that sounds a little harsh, and I don't mean this towards the director. I mean this in general of what I think Hollywood is doing nowadays that absolutely kills any kind of momentum a film has when I get to that portion of the film, the latter half of it, or the last like third of it. I can't stand anymore that in Hollywood we can't have a protagonist that you root for from the beginning to the end. Look, I get it. You have character flaws. There's nothing wrong with that. But for a character flaw to take such a blow to your overall theme and your overarching message, it kills the momentum of what it is that you're trying to build up in us the whole way through the movie. And I felt like for him to have experienced certain things, whether it was the author he confronts, I forget her name in the movie.
Centaura.
That's the character's name in the movie.
Yeah.
When he confronts her and she's so defensive, and yet I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I don't mind him kind of having a little bit of egg on his face in this moment because he hasn't really read the book. He even admits to it.
Yeah.
He realizes a lot of his views and opinions are more so stereotypes as well of her and her work and her profession. But even her defense on her side of the thing, and I get the story's not about her, but now you've immediately made the story about her because here's the confrontation happening between these two. And the way in which she defends her works without any kind of firing back, him just kind of sitting there almost in like I never really thought of that, is kind of how he takes it. I thought that was a complete blow to who he is and what he's been standing up for throughout the movie.
Agree with that, yeah.
And so that's where my opinion started to shift. I was like, all right, where's this going? Is he going to backtrack now?
Right, is he going to flip?
Is he going to flip on all of what he's been preaching this whole movie, and you're going to pull the wool over our eyes and now say, oh, you've been agreeing with him the whole movie, but now he's dead wrong.
Yeah.
And granted, like I said, the ending thankfully doesn't do that. It doesn't destroy what the movie builds. But it then also teeters now in balancing the two messages of, I don't want Hollywood to hate me because they still have this message they're preaching, and I'm wanting to take it to them and stick it to them by, pulling the wool over their eyes and saying, hey, you need to kind of look in the mirror here and see what you're guilty of. But vice versa, on the other hand, you can't fully bring that message home by not pointing out the exact essence of what the problem is. And that was another point that I was going to say. The flaw I had is that he specifically, the stereotypes of the white people in this film, the upper crust elitist white educated liberals, is a perfect, it is the perfect essence of what most people, I think, realize what Hollywood and upper crust academia are.
Right.
Especially the Ivy League types. And that's no doubt who he was going for and who he was mocking. Brilliant. The problem is when you just make it generic, you don't say white leftists, then you immediately don't underscore your very point of the film because you don't want to call
every white
everybody.
Yeah.
You don't want to. Well, you just don't want to call out the problem. It's literally like saying, to a child who goes and sticks his hand in the cookie jar, like, oh, it was. You shouldn't be doing that. You're going to spoil your dinner, but I'm also going to put the cookie jar over here where you can't reach it because I shouldn't have put it in that place to begin with. That's my fault. It's like you're not really getting to the essence of what the problem is. You're not pointing out and directly saying to the audience, no, here are the culprits of why this is continuing in our society. So again, I was very, very on the cusp because I agree with you, Sean. I mean, throughout most of the movie, highly entertained. The moments with his family are so genuine, and you could easily see that amongst your own family, no matter what color creed you follow. You could easily be encapsulated by the emotion in the family. The scene with his gay brother, when is it Lorraine? Lorraine.
Yeah.
Okay. When she comes in, and he's distraught because now it's like shame is on his face, regardless of how he's dealing with his gay lifestyle and the fact that his father never accepted him.
Right.
But then the fact that now he's caught in the very act of indulging in this kind of, debaucherous behavior. It's not that he is fearful or he's fearful of just being gay, but he's feeling like, oh my gosh, they're catching me in this house. This
Oh, you're talking
house,
about before the wedding.
Right.
Okay.
At the very end when there's
Yeah.
two guys in there.
Yeah.
And he's just brokenhearted.
Yeah.
And you see him like, I'll get my stuff and I'll leave. And Lorraine just looks at him and she's like, no, stay. Your family.
Yeah.
And the way it's delivered, in the look on his face, I mean, it breaks your heart.
Yeah, it does.
It absolutely breaks your heart. And it is a beautiful, beautiful way in which you handle something like that on a familial level.
When
it was just beautiful to see.
When they go to the nursing home and Cliff shows up to actually be a part of that this time, and the mom is shut down and having, I think they say she's having a bad day. When Cliff puts the record player on and begins to dance with her, I thought that was so. It's what I like to see in a movie. I like to see the emotional moment, and then I like it to be destroyed for a moment. And it gave me this moment where I literally was just like, I was thinking about my own mom, and it's just like such a beautiful moment. And then to have her say, like, I always knew you were queer. I always thought you were queer.
Oh, I think she said the opposite. She said, I always knew you weren't queer.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought
That's
she
why
said,
he got upset and left.
Yeah,
because
that's
she
why
said,
he was.
Oh, I thought she said, I always knew you were a queer.
No. She said the opposite, which is, he was upset.
That's even better now that I know that. Yeah. But then when he gets upset and walks away, I was just like, dang.
Gut punch.
You took this emotional touching moment and then flipped it into this emotional hurting moment. Yeah. And I really liked that. And I thought that was same thing with the sister and what happens to her. You take this awesome camaraderie between a brother and a sister in a laughable moment, and then immediately it turns into tragedy.
Right.
And it's like, man, talk about a roller coaster of emotions done well.
Yep.
And there were multiple moments like this in the movie that's one of the things that I responded to the most was like, man, the sister's in the movie for like 3 or 4 minutes. And it's like in that 3 or 4 minutes, you gave me so much of their relationship that when she does pass, it makes you cry.
Yeah.
Like I felt so sorry for him in the hospital. And I'm just like, wow. Like it's like the first 5 minutes of Up. It's like you deliver so much of a connection in such a short period of time that you can evoke emotion through that. And I just thought it was, I don't know.
I think it's go ahead.
I was just going to say, out of all of the things that we've seen so far in the Best Picture nominees, it's one of my top movies. It
would agree.
pushed to the top, and I was not expecting that.
Same. I wasn't expecting it either. And not only would I agree, to me, no offense, because I did stick with the 2.5 out of 4 stars.
Yeah.
It, to me, told me how weak the selection is. Because, again, while I not to bash this film probably any more than I already have, to me, it's not such a strong contender that I would put it up there with something I'm going to revisit, consistently. But, I haven't seen The Holdovers yet. But based on everything else that we've reviewed, that I have seen, there is no better pick
No.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a little. There's not.
I'm the Holdovers, and then American Fiction. That's my top 2 right now.
I would agree with that, actually. I think every nominee... I don't remember if I've looked through all of them, but I know as far as the acting goes...
Jeffrey Wright was great.
Oh, he was phenomenal. And then Sterling K. Brown was also nominated for supporting actor. That's Cliff. I thought that one I agree with. I definitely think that it deserves the noms based on everything else that is nominated. Like you could say, yes, it's indicative of another weaker year.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing else. I was looking at some of the acting like up against these, and I'm looking when you look at something like Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, like, and people say this is blasphemous, but I'm like, yeah, she's an amazing actress. She wasn't an amazing actress in that movie.
Yep.
Like, and I felt
Same
that way
thing with
about
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper, Maestro. He's an amazing actor. He was better in other movies.
American Sniper, he was way better.
But again, I contend to that. And I agree, you can't necessarily base it on other performances, but you do have to base it on the performances of the year they're nominated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will say, like, I understand. I mean, I think Bradley Cooper still did a fantastic job as Maestro. I think he deserves the nom for it, based on what else I've seen this year.
Yeah.
I mean, because even Cillian Murphy, I'm just like, he's Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
I'm like, other than maybe Scarecrow, I just he's got a certain way he acts, and he doesn't really change it. Like, I didn't watch videos. I didn't watch interviews with Oppenheimer.
He looks and sounds.
Watch Peaky Blinders. That's probably some peak Cillian Murphy acting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's
that's
saying how he compares to the real life Oppenheimer.
Oh, you're talking about Oppenheimer?
Right, yeah, he did a good job.
Okay.
but
and I will
I'll
not only take your word for it, but I agree. It's like maybe watching something where I feel like, to me, it was almost like seeing Barry Keoghan in Banshees of Inisherin last year.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watched him, it was just like, I'm not used. He did something different than what I've seen him in other things before.
Yeah.
And after seeing certain actors for so long, I'm not necessarily going to judge them based on their past works, but I will judge them based on what I know. I mean, this is what we've had this discussion on the show before. It's exactly what I said about Leonardo DiCaprio. To me, he didn't deserve the Oscar for Revenant. He deserved it for Wolf of Wall Street,
or The Departed,
and even then, I wouldn't say The Departed, but I have to go back and look at the list from that year. I really don't remember who he was up against, but when you have such a wide catalog of movies, I think you can then start to say, okay, well, based on what I know of your range, I have to judge it based on that.
Yeah.
Is this really pushing you into new territory? Which is why, to me, no. Him not getting nominated for Killers of the Flower Moon, that wasn't a snub.
No,
there's
not
no
at
way.
all.
It wasn't anything that I hadn't
wasn't
seen Leonardo
special.
DiCaprio do before.
Compared to other performances this year and compared to how anyone else could have done the role, yeah, I agree. And that's kind of how I judge things too, is not so much against their past performance unless I know they can do, like Paul Giamatti. I know he was fantastic in The Holdovers, but I also know he can act better than that because I've seen him act better than that. And when I compare that role to someone else, like, I think, okay, could someone else have come in and done this role as good or better than Paul Giamatti? And a little bit, not so much. That's why I think Paul does ultimately deserve the Oscar nom, because I'm like, I don't see very many people pulling it off as well. And I kind of do that with most roles, like whether it's Maestro, this one that Jeffrey Wright did, is like, can anyone else do the role this well or better?
Right.
And then how does this stack up against other performances of the year?
Yeah.
And I thought, I mean, personally, I think Jeffrey Wright's my pick right now for actor. So.
All right. Well, there you have it. Of course, our official picks are coming.
Yeah,
in just
they
a few
will.
weeks.
That's just,
Yep. Little tease ahead. All right, let's get into now our headlines. Let's roll that open. That's right.
That's going to be back in theaters.
It is the
May
25th anniversary.
Yep.
That's insane.
I saw that and I was like...
Doesn't that make you feel old?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Like, it makes me feel really old.
I was 9 years old when that came out.
Yep. It'll be there in time for May 4th. It's coming out that Friday, which is the 3rd.
May the 4th be with us all.
Yeah.
And also
we'll
with
celebrate
you.
it by going and seeing Phantom Menace in theaters. Nah.
I won't.
Not happening.
I'll probably be doing derby crap that weekend. I won't get a chance to
that's
go.
right, yeah.
I'm not going to go see that movie in theaters.
I'm not
again.
either.
I
I
honestly,
saw it once
I've-
in theaters. I'm not going to do it again.
I've seen memes though that are just like the same expression that was it Obi-Wan gives when Qui-Gon dies, and they're like, "That's the expression I'm giving seeing this in theaters again." and I'm like, I kind of get the reliving the excitement. And look, based on the debacle of the new trilogy that we have,
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't mind reliving some of the excitement of good old George Lucas and times past.
Yeah, there's it has a if it was any of the original trilogy,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I would be on the fence, but I get it. I would rather revisit that than
I watched Empire the other night,
Oh man.
and I'm telling you, that is the best
is the
Star
best,
Wars
yeah.
movie.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no doubt.
It's just a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Great.
Alrighty, guys, we got some big trailers to talk about from good old.
Oh yeah.
the good old big game.
Any Star Wars trailers? No.
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 That's
No.
because
I think
they're all
I missed a lot of
failing.
them, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, because like during the commercial breaks,
Well, here's the
is
thing.
when
No,
I
no, no,
got
no.
up
You,
to got
you
food.
didn't
didn't
miss
miss
them.
any
You
of them.
missed the catch it
The
online.
teasers, yeah.
They were
Full
all
trailer now.
Yeah, they were all 30-second ads that said full trailer can be
Yeah.
seen online, and I'm like, what's
I'm
the point
I'm
of
gonna
this?
be honest, 100%. I have not checked any of those out online.
Well, here, okay.
Deadpool is the only one that I've seen the full trailer for.
You
I
and
actually-
365
Yes,
million
yes.
people have. It's insane.
The-
Fastest. What was it? Fastest.
I sent the
24
article.
hour or largest viewing in 24 hours.
Yeah,
for
most-
something
most
dropped on
Any
YouTube.
trailer.
Yeah, most viewed trailer in 24 hours.
Okay,
yeah.
viewed trailer. Okay.
Yeah. Which I mean is crazy. I mean, I get the hype.
Crazy. That's nuts.
And it's funny. Some of these though, what's funny to me is even though they're the Super Bowl trailers, I'd already seen. Like they had released them earlier in the week, like that, like not Super Bowl night.
Yeah, but you got to understand, and I agree. I agree with you. I mean, for us who kind of follow these things, we're gonna catch them when like certain
Yeah,
people
The
release
average,
them. Or,
yeah.
the average person.
But most people,
Um,
just like the Deadpool thing. I mean,
Yeah.
how many people who actually went and watched that trailer even knew another Deadpool was coming out? None of them probably. They saw the teaser and they
Yeah.
immediately lost their crap, and they got online probably and watched it during the game. And then it's like the fact that, I mean, most people didn't even know a picture was circulating around the web of Deadpool and Wolverine walking on the
Yeah.
set. So the moment they probably heard Wolverine was going to be in it, they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god!"
I
this
was
is insane."
surprised that the title. I was surprised that they titled it Deadpool and
And
Wolverine.
Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that I don't get that. It's just that used to there were like they would treat. I mean, I know Marvel especially would used to treat like the Super Bowl trailers like lockdown. Like we don't want anything leaking until that night, so it is a big surprise for everyone. And now some of these places are just like, just go ahead and drop it on the internet, and then we'll still advertise on Super Bowl. They no longer make a big event of releasing the trailers
Agreed.
on Super Bowl. And I just think it's kind of sad. It's like, so then what's the point of hyping it up?
It is, but I don't think it is in the sense of not only the cultural landscape we live in now of just not only immediacy and trying to be the first one to get ahead and make like a big, again, doing something like Deadpool where anyone thinks, oh, one more second online versus someone they're checking out our trailer first and they're obsessing with it and then
But
they're
they
spreading
didn't
it on
release it
social
until
media.
Super Bowl. Like they didn't release that trailer at all until Super Bowl night, and then they dropped it.
There
No,
were-
no,
Yeah.
right. I'm just saying, maybe for others,
Yeah.
their strategy is, and I think
Oh, that's true.
across the
it's
board.
like when if you already know Deadpool's coming to Super Bowl, you might as well release your trailer a few days early so it gets some views.
Well, and I mean, and just I think
Yeah.
in general, it's like you're not Deadpool. You're not trying to
Yes,
compete in
yes.
that
Yeah.
route. Because I think it was crazy because I kind of got the hint of this is a little bit departure for movies, but when Beyonce had her commercial. And of course, it was Verizon, and they were all. And she was like, "All right, I got a way to break it." And she was like, "Drop them new songs." And my first thought is, like, are they Is she dropping like a new album? Is it
Yeah.
a new single?
Oh, that would be
sure
huge.
enough, it was a new single.
Okay.
And I didn't, but it was funny because I checked, thinking it was enough of a tease that I checked right then and there. Not because I'm a Beyonce fan, I'm really not. But I was like, I want to know if like,
Yeah, I must
is
have
this
missed this.
Is this about to blow up?
Yeah.
It wasn't available.
Ha-
And I swear, it might have been shortly after the ad played, and
Yeah.
it might have just taken a while for servers to refresh. But I did see it the next day. It was because I turned on my PlayStation, and it was one of the first YouTube videos that was being promoted.
Now,
Like,
didn't his
His
new album
album-
also
It dropped Thursday.
Okay.
Before
Okay.
the game, but that was also promoted as doing so because of his lead up to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I real quick, I wanted to read off the name of all the movies, a link that we're going to have in the description below after the show.
It plays them all.
Plays them all. 19 minutes of trailers.
Okay.
You've got Deadpool and Wolverine. You've got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Knuckles, which is actually
That's
kind
a
of
Paramount
Plus
series.
show.
is it a short series?
It's a
like
mini
4 or 5?
series.
Okay.
6
Yeah.
episodes.
Despicable Me 4, A Quiet Place Day 1, Twisters, The Fall Guy, Wicked, Moana 2, Inside Out 2, Kung Fu Panda 4, Monkey Man, Bob Marley One Love, If, and then Imaginary. So of all those,
I've seen those all.
I've seen all of them. There were a few that had some, like even the, thankfully, The Fall Guy had a new one.
Yeah.
I do think...
I think they all were relatively new to what's been in theaters, because even the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was new.
It was different. Yeah,
Yeah.
it showed different characters.
It did, and it actually so far enticed me more than
It
what I've
looks
seen
better.
so far.
I feel like I think the movie looks good. I still have some problem with some, and again, it's a trailer, so they might touch it up. There's a few scenes where the CGI just doesn't look as good to me as
Agreed.
the other movies, but again, that might not be the finalized CGI either.
True, because there were some other shots too that I would argue that looked not better than, but on par with what we'd seen already with that series.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that series was already spectacular.
Oh, yes, yeah.
in terms of CG, which is why it would be such a bad thing for it to
If
be
it
a step.
backtracked,
Take
yeah.
a back step.
That'd be a Marvel move right there.
yeah. Oh man, just,
But I'm hoping it's just some unfinished stuff for the trailer, and that when the movie comes out, because none of it looks terrible. I think just.
no, and I was a little bit intrigued to see A Quiet Place Day 1. I knew it was coming.
I did too. I don't know.
I'm watching it now.
Really just
Yeah,
running
I
through
hadn't
it?
seen it. Yeah, I hadn't seen these.
It's not that it looks bad.
It
I
doesn't.
don't feel like we need a prequel, and I'm tired of like stretching franchises out past like if it's a really good movie, then I'll eat my words and be fine with it. It's not John Krasinski doing it, and it's a prequel that we didn't need, so I don't know if I trust it yet.
Agreed. I'm skeptical about most of these. In fact, one that most people would probably be like, "What? Are you serious?" And I think even you were a little shocked by when I said this. Not really. The Deadpool trailer didn't really do it for me.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
I am.
I know a lot of people are.
I saw more
Easter eggs,
little
or-
teases in that one trailer that I think Marvel has put in any of their MCU movies as far as connective tissue goes. That was that attention to detail that made me excited. Like I told you, seeing the TVA there, seeing the different set pieces that match like other Marvel movies, like the Avengers, Age of Ultron, other Fox movies. They brought Pyro back from the old Fox movies. They have a comic book, the Secret Wars comic book with Doctor Doom's face like buried in the sand next to him. And I'm like, okay, there's actually, you could tell somebody involved with this movie actually follows the comics.
AKA Ryan Reynolds.
And for me, it's like being able to watch the trailer and know that somebody knows the comics is the first time I felt that way about a Marvel movie in a long time, because Doctor Strange didn't do it, Thor didn't do it, Black Panther didn't do it, the Marvels sure as hell didn't do it. So I'm just like, I feel like at least this trailer, I was like, okay, whether it's good or not, it looks like somebody actually knows.
And everything that you just mentioned is the reason why I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
Look, I have faith in Ryan Reynolds that it'll be entertaining. I just don't know how entertaining it will be to keep me motivated to want to see what else Marvel has to offer.
I'm kind of in between both of you on that, because I really do feel like this movie is going to set up a future MCU. Whether Disney will do anything with that and continue and follow through,
That's fair too.
That's where I'm skeptical.
Right
Because I've seen them do this in other Marvel films.
Yes.
They've given you these nuggets that you're like, oh man, if this comes to fruition, this could be great. And then they never do anything with it.
Yeah.
And so I could see even to Ryan Reynolds' best efforts, having this movie full of all kinds of fanfare and all kinds of, like Keith said, connective tissue, but then it doesn't connect to anything later.
No, you're right.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
100% that. I mean, mainly what I want out of this movie is just a good Deadpool movie. If I'm giving that, I'll be happy. I would like it to revitalize the MCU. I don't trust that it will, because like you said, I don't know how well they'll continue on. But I mean, as long as it's a good Deadpool 3 that I feel like rounds up Deadpool 1, 2, and 3 as whatever, kind of like No Way Home was a good capper to those movies. If I get that, I'll be happy at least with the Deadpool franchise.
Well, at least Deadpool 1 and 2 are not connected to the MCU anyway.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. That's kind of the weird thing is I didn't like Deadpool 2 was more of the same.
Yeah.
No,
it wasn't anything that was wholly unique, and I knew they were treading lightly because of what they could offer in the film based on, buyouts that hadn't happened yet. But even then, with this now being wholeheartedly accepted into the MCU, there's still that skepticism of not only the general direction as a whole, but also how does a Deadpool character, and based on what we've already seen come before it, how does this evolve his character for his own franchise, but also how does it evolve the character in terms of going into the MCU and bringing everything together that coalesces into whatever we have planned out for? Because we still don't know the complete definitive direction. Maybe this movie will tell us of what is the fallout from the Kang Dynasty since Jonathan Majors isn't there anymore.
All we know is that it's leading to Secret Wars. It's the only thing they've been open about. But for most people, that means nothing. So,
Nope. Well, and like you said, even all of the little Easter eggs that you picked up, I'm glad that you're excited.
But again, you have to be a comic book fan for a lot of that too.
But I'm okay with that because I think. But the problem is, and we've talked about this endlessly on the show before. The problem is that Disney has worked themselves into a corner where they kept trying to whet your appetite with, you got to keep tuning in for this. This is going to reveal a next big thing. And they kept telling you that every movie when there was no big reveal. And so people who were strung out that long, who were just like, okay, like, what have you done for me lately? I'm sitting here and I'm still waiting and I still don't have. They've kind of not only given up, but there haven't been all these breadcrumbs that they can coalesce into a complete puzzle that they're like, oh, wow, this is all making sense. And it's a little too late. Like, I don't think they're going to do that with Deadpool 3.
There are some breadcrumbs, but I agree with you. The problem is that the breadcrumbs they've spread so far are so thin that by the time they get around to pulling them together, because there's a little bit in Doctor Strange, there's a little bit in Ant-Man Quantumania, which there should have been a lot of bit in Quantumania, seeing it was about thing. Well, I'm just saying, considering it was about Kang, you would think you would have gone full in on that movie, but it's like, by the time. Because those movies have been pushed back. They were like Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars were supposed to come out in 2026. That's not happening anymore. So we're going to wait however many more years to see these threads put together. And you got Bob Iger over here promising we need to slow down on sequels and only make better quality movies while they still churn out sequels.
Say we're gonna get to Bobby here in just a second.
Well, that was different from what we have but yeah.
But I wanted to bring up one more thing and just in general about the trailers overall and kind of going back to something you just brought up, Keith, because really, for them to drop $7 million on a 30-second teaser just to say, hey, go watch it online.
Yeah.
One thing I also noticed, and you brought up, was the fact that all of these, whether they were teasing something that, hey, the real stuff's online, all of them were things that most people, if you follow movies, know about. Mm-hmm. I remember 5-6 years ago when, it was a terrible movie, but the Cloverfield Paradox dropped.
Oh, yeah.
And it was literally like a trailer, and then it was like, boom, on Netflix tonight.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa,
crazy.
Holy crap. Like that was, or even certain reveals of movies that were not teased. And it is sad. I don't know if it's sad or if it's just, again, the landscape is changing.
I mean, it could be both. That's why when I said, like, I understand the changing of the landscape. Wow. But at the same time, I'm still saddened that I liked the surprise, and I'm sad that that's gone.
Right. Because there is, it feels like it's become so accepted in terms of we're just constantly shoving our faces with so much content.
Yeah.
That it's like there's always they're trying all these little tactics to one up, and it's like the Super Bowl now is not. It is the place where all eyeballs now I can't speak. All eyeballs are, that you still are going to have a majority of people who are like, oh wow, I didn't know that was coming out, or oh wow, I'm going to go check that out now. Mm-hmm. So that's why they still pay for the teaser. But instead of dropping something and waiting for all the momentum to be on that one definitive moment, because they're just not, it's not as as huge a spectacle as you would expect it to have been anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I mean, most of the commercials I thought were not only milquetoast, but they were kind of just tepid at best. Nobody really tried anything too groundbreaking that was going to, be something that you would talk about the next day. And unfortunately, I just think the big game overall has now become kind of a, yes, it's a cultural phenomenon, and people, like I said, still tune into it. It's not like it's not worth putting your brand on there to promote it, but it is more so it's not where you're going to go to find the next big thing that you're going to be excited to find. I mean, it's going to pretty much just promote either. I mean, I think we all jokingly sent texts about Temu having like, what was it, like 6 or 7?
They had 7 ads.
That's insane. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, they paid some money.
But I love the memes. One of the memes, who sent it? It was the meme where they were joking, and it's like, you just sold all of your data to Temu so they could have the Super Bowl ad and pay for it.
Pretty much.
But no, overall, nothing too crazy with the trailers. Again, nothing that I think that blew my mind in terms of being revealed.
I mean, Twisters didn't blow your mind?
All right, it did a little. I knew it was coming, though.
Oh, yeah, what you do is coming.
I knew it was coming, but to see it officially, like, I'm. Here's the thing. They're playing tongue-in-cheek I think the right kind of way. They're touching on the nostalgia, but and as we've had in personal conversations, they're doing, I think, fan, service correctly. They're not just going to go full on. It depends. They could go full overboard and do too many references that I'm like, it's not its own thing. But it could be another
Top Gun Maverick.
Exactly.
No.
Well,
not that good. No, the Twister wasn't a Top Gun, so. Yeah. But I mean, it's still a fun movie.
Maverick was far better than the original Top Gun.
Yes. Well, this isn't God. I say it. I'll eat my word. I don't think Twisters.
Words.
I don't think Twisters is going to be better than the original Twister. But,
I don't either. But it holds a special place in my heart, and that's why.
Oh, I know.
Just like any Mortal Kombat that releases will never beat the '95 Mortal Kombat.
I mean, that's true. I mean,
but also there really hasn't been one to contest it. You could say the latest one, but even it kind of got pretty bad in the end. My
biggest problem with that, I just like I don't want to get into it.
We don't have to get into it.
I was going to go down that road, but no. We've already reviewed that movie.
We're done. Go listen to the review on our website, redmoonproductions.com.
I agree. There wasn't a lot of trailers. I liked it again. I liked it and I didn't like it. What they did with the If trailer by having I forget the actor's name from he's big now. He was in the is it Off the Boat? Was that the sitcom? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the Asian guy.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name.
He John Krasinski.
Yeah, but of course that's obviously a play on the Office episode where they did the same exact thing. So I was like, okay.
Funny. I think it's a complete ripoff of Margaret's Monsters, but we'll see when it comes out.
Yeah.
Margaret's Monsters released in 2017. Eat that, John.
Yeah. But I did. I was just like, oh, they're doing the whole Office bit with the because he did that, and I was just like, that's funny.
But either way,
go
watch the trailers if you want. Not any big surprises.
Are we gonna talk about Bobby now? Or are we talking about?
I think we're gonna bring up the other one real quick. We got to talk about it a little bit. Prime's ads are sparking a lawsuit.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to go anywhere.
I don't either.
I think it's a fat chance, but I just wanted to not only bring up the story, but just the ire of any Prime subscriber out there.
I feel their ire.
Who has to now pretty much pay to get ad-free for Prime Video, which
when you already had it.
You had it beforehand.
I do. So that's basically what happened is now there are ads on your Amazon Prime, and if you don't want ads, you have to pay an extra $2.99 a month. Whereas everyone else who implemented ads just created a lower tier that you would pay less for to get ads. Amazon said, "Screw y'all, we're giving everybody ads and making you pay." So I get it. I like you said, I don't know that the lawsuit will go anywhere, but I do. It's like pulling the rug out from underneath people. Like, hey, you're already paying for this service that has never had ads, that's been promoted to not have ads, and now you have ads.
And it's one letter away from being another word.
I know.
And it just doesn't sound
right.
It's
like, hey, I mean, now you got AIDS. That's what Amazon's going to give people next.
That's
AIDS.
That's it. You can't. It's like contractually you're obligated.
And if you don't want AIDS, you got to pay us another $4.99 a month.
AIDS free.
But no, I think there's already kind of been precedent for this case. Another lawsuit that was brought a couple of years back which granted, I think this does need to be maybe talked to, as much as I am against federal government, making legislation.
Yeah.
One of the things, I'll back up a little bit. The lawsuit that was brought up before against Prime or Amazon was the fact that they were pulling certain digital content that people had bought or purchased.
Yeah.
And the court sided with Amazon saying, look, you signed up for the terms of use, and the terms of use stipulate that if there's licensing issues with some purchased content that you've created and they pull it from their storefront, it's no longer available in your catalog.
Mm-hmm.
You willingly okayed that.
Another reminder, you don't own digital.
Right, exactly. You don't own digital content. And it's interesting because that's where I say I think at the federal level, I think these things need to be maybe addressed. And to me, and granted, it may change certain copyright laws. It may change in terms of, between the distributor and the publisher. It may, it may come up with new sorts of, payouts and pay structure. I don't care how the businesses themselves work it out, but I think it's absolutely criminal that you can pay for something thinking you own it, only for it to by no means be able or be completely obsolete because the person who once gave you the service is now retracting it.
You actually had texted, because I texted you about Funimation. This is an animation app service, but same thing happened. Funimation closed down because they merged with Crunchyroll, and they actually sent an email out to people saying any digital movies they had bought on that app, they apologized because they weren't, you can't, there was no way to transfer that over. So if you bought movies on Funimation and you transferred to the Crunchyroll app, you no longer had those movies because they're not on that app, and you're just crap out of luck is basically what they said. They're like, well, we may try to address this in the future, but as of right now, those movies you bought are gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
See, there's a solution for this. And this happened when Ultraviolet went out of business.
Yeah. I remember.
With Ultraviolet, you would buy all these movies on there, or you would even buy the DVD and get the digital code, but your movie you could only watch it on the UV app on Ultraviolet. And so when they were going out of business, they partnered with Movies Anywhere and Vudu and even Apple
and iTunes.
Yep. To the point where any purchases that you made on Ultraviolet, that as long as you linked your accounts, you could watch all of those movies on Movies Anywhere or Vudu or iTunes. And I kind of feel like this is something that in an instance like with what you're talking about with Amazon, that should have absolutely been done. If you had purchased content on Amazon and they were losing control of that content or licensing of the content, they should have let you watch it somewhere else.
Or even offer. I'm even willing to go so far as not to, because here's the thing. I even think about with games and how in video games you certain games in the past, which granted, I mean it's kind of a whole separate. Okay, I think too far ahead before I speak. I think of something like Halo. Halo had a first player, first person shooter. You had your own campaign that you could go through that was a story. Then you also had online multiplayer. Years after, 15, 20 years before they brought out the Master Chief Collection and respun up those servers, basically there was a point at which the servers died. They took them down. They spun them down. They were offline. You could not play an online match. Now, there were some homebrew options, and there were fans out there who loved Halo enough that they made up their own kind of server communities and server farms that would allow you to play PvP, matches online. But even then, it's interesting that it's nobody ever complains about that, because you almost intuitively think that when you buy a game, if it's an online component, actually, people are bringing it to light now because, again, like I said, at least Halo had a campaign. There were parts of the game that were still fully functioning that required no online content or connection at all to an outside server. But then, meaning you were buying it with the intention of saying, I'm going to utilize this feature so long as it exists. However, now you have certain games as a service that if you buy into it up front and you put all these hours, all this time into it, but they spin the servers down and it becomes obsolete and
Yeah.
it's no longer playable,
Yeah.
then you're pretty much at a loss for all of that time and all of that energy that you put into this,
That's what happened with Warhawk.
Yeah.
Warhawk pissed me off beyond no means because me and my brother-in-law probably put easily 700, 800, 900 hours into that freaking game when that came out on the PS3. That was a launch title for the PS3. Online only. No story, no campaign. All you could do is get online and play in these massive battles with people. And I think it was literally, the PS3 was still in its life cycle when they shut those servers down. Like it wasn't even like the PS4 had come out. It was still alive and well, and they shut that game down. And it's like, there's your $40. It wasn't an expensive game at the time. It was 40 bucks or something like that. But it's like, there's your $40 game and all those hours and even some real money that you might have put into the game to unlock things, or and then it's all gone.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like what a total waste of money.
Right. And again, I do understand the other side of this. I understand that it's kind of like from a business perspective.
Yeah.
You could easily sit here and say, look, it's not conceivable that we're going to keep up these servers
Forever.
for forever.
Yeah.
That we're just not going to support
all
because
eternity.
Unfortunately, forever.
No, I see what you're saying.
But
though.
it's like I do understand that from a perspective, but I think when it comes, because this is the thing, even when movies change formats. When you're going from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray, for certain movies that I loved, I didn't mind buying the new next best iteration because in my mind, certain times, and there's been certain distributors that have been dinged by this, the thought was, okay, they put in the work and the effort to distribute this now in a higher fidelity than it was before. I'm willing to shell out some more money to buy this in a next best version of the movie. Now, there have been plenty that have gotten away with that gimmick and then they got called out on it, i.e. Terminator 2 when it first came out on Blu-ray, and it was railed as far as just being almost a straight from a port from the DVD
Just
version.
an upscale, DVD.
It was awful. I remember before the 4K versions of Lord of the Rings, I never really complained about the Blu-ray versions.
Oh, the color grading,
but
and
the
Fellowship
color
was
grading
off.
is totally different in the 4K versions and way, way better. But ultimately, those I felt like things were added that were justified the value. And again, if I have it a hard disk medium, it makes sense. I own the physical copy.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to something like, ads on a streaming service, that the streaming service is licensing the content based on who the publisher or distributor is, or even things that they put in their store. In my mind, streaming is separate from if I bought it from your store.
Yeah.
To me, the way it should be reconciled is either one, because I have enjoyed that content for a certain amount of time, and if you want to get granular with it, this is where I'll leave it up to the courts to decide and the businesses themselves. If you want to get really granular, you could easily say, hey, we noticed you have these titles in your library. They're going away. We've noticed that since you've owned it, you've watched it this many times. Therefore, you're entitled to this amount of money refunded to you based on how you've enjoyed that content. Because I would say, oh, you're available for a full refund. Well, that's going to bankrupt the company. There's no way they can offer you a full refund for something that you bought, especially if you bought it under the terms that I'm basically thinking in terms of like future legislation.
Yeah.
If they brought this up to Washington. In my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, even if they offer you some kind of, incentive to say, we're taking this away from you because our partnership or our licensing agreement with this company ended, so we therefore can no longer host this on our servers legally, so we're going to pull it. However, we're going to send you a refund of this amount or this value for this particular title, or we're going to credit your account that you can spend on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
They love doing that. Or even say, we sell this item as a physical edition. Would you in turn like a physical copy of this version of what you purchased in essence? That to me would be a complete trade-off, and I'd be okay with that. But of course, then you're talking even possibly more money being spent because now you are getting rid of
you gotta
physical
get rid of,
volume. And that, depending on the price of the volume and how rare it is,
Yeah.
that could be really expensive as well.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some kind of solution to purchasing digital content and it being hosted. I mean, I remember when PT came out on the PlayStation.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They pulled it from the store since it was teasing a game that was canceled.
yeah.
But they did not delete it off of your hard drive, even though they had the power to do so.
Yeah.
They could have
Yeah.
they could have turned it inoperable
It's like
on
as
your
long
own
as you
physical
didn't
hard
delete
drive.
it's on there,
Right.
forever. And now they're going on eBay. PlayStation 4s with PT
I still have
on
mine.
them.
Are you serious?
Yeah, oh yeah, they sell for a
Dang.
lot of money on eBay because
I've
it's
still
only,
got mine.
I
it's the
deleted
only,
mine.
it's one of the only ways
Really?
you can get
Yeah.
PT. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, I've still got it on mine.
yeah. But yeah, it's I think, like I said, it's proof that if you want something desperately, like if it's something you never want to lose, you got to buy physical or pirate it. You know,
Yep.
either or.
And honestly, I think that's what we're going to talk about kind of in our next headline a little bit. It's funny because we kind of only brought up, I think we used the Prime adding ads
Yeah.
to just segue into really kind of complaining about digital content in general right now and the fight that's going on. Because I mean, look, I have an opinion in terms of streaming and ads. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
But it's like, to me, let's just face it. I mean, every single streaming service right now is in the predicament of trying to be profitable.
Yeah.
While also maintaining original content on their platform and offering up other services. The beauty of Amazon Prime was that it was always bundled in with these other great benefits.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's no surprise. It sucks, and it does come as a little bit of it feels like a backstab. But in terms of like 10, 15 years from now or 20, nobody's going to think about times when Amazon Prime did. We'll be the ones in our old rocker chair.
I remember
when
have
Prime
ads.
didn't have ads. My old boss at JCPS, she told me, she was like, I don't know why you have to pay for TV. She was like, in my day, it was free. And of course, she's talking about over the air because she's not talking about cable and the fact that there's all these, broadcast channels, cable channels now. But it's like, to me, it's like they're trying to find ways in which they've given you a deal for so long. They realize it's hurting their bottom dollar. They got to make up the revenue.
Yep.
They got to make up the profit they're losing. And that's kind of why, it segues into our next little piece of a headline here. We're going to move through this one pretty quickly. Disney Plus loses more than 1 million subs in its first quarter here in 2024. And it's interesting because it's not all doom and gloom.
No.
It's not all doom and gloom for Disney. I'll say that.
They say they cut losses by $300 million, is what they say.
And that to me is with an asterisk. Because how much of that, and this is where you can get into some, which I haven't done any deep dive on, but how much of those losses by $300 million are from all of those projects that they claimed as losses?
Oh, that they took tax credits.
Because they took tax credits on
on.
because of the fact that they were huge flops at the box office.
Yeah.
Most of their 2023 lineup.
I don't know, because they didn't really do that as much as Max, because in order to get that tax break, you can't show the movie, and Disney showed all theirs. So I know they pulled stuff from their platform, but like Max has been the biggest one, or Warner Brothers in general, just because they actually didn't release like Batgirl or Coyote versus Acme. So I don't know how much of a tax break Disney has gotten either, because one of the stipulations for that is you can't release the movie at all. But yeah, I know.
Granted, I mean, here's the thing too: is I don't know about. You're right, because I don't know if this is really theatrical, because it does say streaming business losses.
Yeah,
that's what I was
true.
getting
They
say.
cut the
Well,
streaming
that's
business
sort of
losses.
that's for with that too. Like you can't release them on Disney Plus either, and they have the stuff they've pulled.
See, and I don't know the rules from that.
What
What if they had it on there in a prior year, but they didn't for an entire full calendar year?
now that might be. I
Could
don't.
they
I
then
don't know.
count it as a loss?
I
don't. This is where I'm not a lawyer.
I just
have
know.
no clue.
I just know. Like with Coyote was originally I think supposed to air on Max and didn't. But yeah, I don't know. Like that's one of those things that they are projecting that they will have more subscribers than they've lost in the next quarter, so they aren't worried about the 1.3 million either. Let's see. Disney shared this news during its first quarter earnings call. revealing that Disney Plus went from 112. I don't know where I'm getting the 11 from. 112.6 million subscribers on September.
11-2.
Yeah, 11-2. I was counting a Hobbit way.
That's
it's
right.
his 11th birthday. So
Yeah.
the 11-2 million subscribers on September 30th, and then they went down to 111.3 million. So I mean, there's your 1.3 loss. It's shared that Hulu, on the other hand, gained 1.2 million subscribers, which is kind of significant in that they are merging the two. In fact, if you get on either or, all the same content's on both now currently.
Really?
Yeah, all of Disney Plus's stuff's on Hulu. All of Hulu's crap, if you get on Disney Plus, they have a Hulu section because they're eventually merging them into one app.
One app, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they had already done that with the content.
Yeah, you can. If you you have to subscribe to both, I think, in order to see that.
we have
Oh,
like
wow.
the package or whatever.
So
Okay.
wait. So right now, before there's a separation of the apps, if you have both services, both content libraries show up on both
Yeah,
platforms.
you can see it on both platforms.
Wow. I did not know that.
Because they're already, because that's kind of their beta. They're already like working towards merging it.
It
So
shows
yeah.
you how much I have logged into Disney Plus
Yeah.
and looked at it.
Well,
I am one.
well, you don't have Hulu, so you wouldn't be able to see
True,
the Hulu
yeah, that's
content
true, too,
anyway.
we watch
but
Hulu more.
I am one
I
of
do
those
too.
people that is that's canceling my subscription. I'm not renewing for
Yeah.
Disney Plus. So in the second quarter, I'm one of the losses. Just saying.
Now, they did say that they anticipate between 5.5 and 6 million Disney Plus core subscriber additions in quarter two. So if they really gain,
Not
even if
me.
you go the lower end, the 5.5, like that does cancel out the 1.3 they lost. At least that's their line of thinking right now.
Right.
What is it that they have
Unless you continue to lose.
that they're anticipating 5.5 to 6 million more subscribers?
the Taylor Swift Eras Tour is coming out in March.
Yeah, that'll be a big one. All the Swifties will pay for
And they
Disney
have
Plus then.
exclusive rights to air the Eras Tour on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah,
I am
it's over.
glad-
Disney's back on top.
Well, for a couple months, for a
yeah,
quarter.
that's what I was gonna say.
I was
It's
gonna
not gonna
say,
last long.
That's what I mean. Here's the thing.
Y'all don't know Swifties. It's eternity. It's like Disney won the game.
But I will say there is a Hideo Kojima documentary that's releasing before my subscription ends
On Disney?
on Disney Plus. Oh, they have exclusive
What?
rights.
I
Y'all
hate
didn't know
Disney.
this?
No.
I sent this in a group chat. We never read any.
I
each
don't
other's
recall
texts.
seeing this documentary. Yeah.
Let me see. Hold on. I got it. Oh, daggone it. I'm gonna try to find it here. Hold on. Hideo Kojima documentary, and it's on Disney Plus. It's called Connecting Worlds, and it comes
Interesting.
out. Oh gosh, when does it come out? It doesn't. I can't find it real quick.
I'll watch it for sure. I love me some Hideo
And
Kojima.
then- yeah, but it is exclusively releasing on Disney Plus. I know it's coming out before my subscription ends in April, so I will be able to watch it.
Looks like it comes out February 23rd.
Perfect. So it's this month.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah, that's
Well,
awesome.
I'll be watching that.
So
Giving
I'm-
Disney a little extra money there.
Oh yeah.
Screw you, Disney.
Well, Netflix. I keep arguing about how Netflix keeps doing this to
been-
me. It
and-
ticks me off. They keep releasing stuff that I actually want to watch,
Yeah.
and they do it literally one thing a month, and I'm like, damn it, got me again.
It did. It did. But yeah, they did do a price hike on the ad-free plan. So again, if you don't like ads, you have to pay more. That's $13.99 a month now, where it was $10.99.
Well, and here's the thing. I know, just like Netflix, Disney Plus is going to pull me in every once in a while because I'm going to get a hankering to watch something.
Yeah.
Or they may even win by the fact that I'm like, okay, I will finally cave and buy Star Wars, or at least like the original 3.
Yeah.
Not the original 3. Sorry, it's so weird. The episode 1 through 3. I'll say it that way. But even then, like they're not going to completely. Like every once in a while, I may tune in for something that's on there, especially like an old show or something. This is part of the reason why I haven't gotten Paramount Plus, and I'm surprised because there's a lot of older content that I grew up with that's on Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that even through all of this,
Well, if you wait long enough, it might be merged into Max. So
honestly,
that's right, yeah.
would be I'd be fine with that because that's paid through AT&T for me, and
Yeah.
I do watch Max.
I do wish
for
they-
now,
I
one
wish
more
they-
merger, and they might just be like, okay,
know
we're
it.
done with this.
I'm waiting for it to go away.
And that's the weird thing is I think we're seeing the coalescing of all the different mergers and really because you just can't have it completely chopped up this much.
I
You
think
just
that
can't.
was a pipe dream for every studio to have their own streaming service, because now they're all beginning to realize that, again, you have to constantly put in new content on there. It costs a lot of money, and then you have to find that sweet spot of how much customers are willing to pay you, because you can't keep hiking it up forever, and they're going to start canceling and going with other services. And yeah, I just think it's a thing where we're starting to see this kind of conglomeration of like a new form of cable, but it's streaming services.
Yeah, no doubt. And I do think that ultimately Disney, they do say that they're, regardless of, I guess they have the projection of how many subscribers they're going to gain.
Yeah.
But even irregardless of that, they did say that they anticipate this year, by the end of the fiscal year, they will be financially on the uptick with regard to their streaming services.
Well, good for Disney.
That they'll be in the black, not in the red, which is more than
Actually,
Netflix
that is more
can say,
than most of the streaming services can say. So
because they're used to operating in the red just to get a viable plan and service that is a platform that's capable of providing revenue for the company, but also a service to the people that people want. So that being Disney licking some wounds on one end, but then heavily happy and proud of where they're headed. And it's kind of funny because, real quick, Keith, you were the one that brought this to my attention. And before we move on to our multimedia segment, I think it's interesting because for all those who thought Disney's days of being political and maybe saying things that were a little bit controversial were behind them, they were turning a new course, especially after the debacle that was last year's box office. Oh yeah, that's Bob Iger was the one that left it in Chapek's hands, and Chapek was the one that really started running it into the ground.
But Iger came back to save the day.
Right, that's what everybody thinks, and it's like, well, wait a sec, not so fast. So if you wanted to, I don't know, Keith, you were the one that read this article.
I just thought it was funny because, let's see, we pull up the, I forget the guy, Christopher Rufo, who's also the same guy shared on X that he released the video about the gay agenda and gaying up Disney, all the corporate people that say, oh, no, we're intentionally making these movies. He now released another video from Bob Iger right after January 6th. I've obtained exclusive new video from Disney marking the exact moment the company decided to become political, days after January 6th. So this is Bob Iger in a video. These are his words. Presently, he claims they want to steer clear of politics. Before, though, back when January 6th happened in 2021, he had a different attitude. He said, "We've kind of shied away from politics, and in doing so, I think we've shied away from talking about issues that aren't political at all." Now, I get his point there, but then the things he begins to discuss are political. Iger began arguing that people were so afraid of what might be considered political, they avoided what he believed to be important but apolitical topics. Because we believe in doing so, maybe it looks like we were taking a stand, but in that reality, we should be taking a stand, he continued. By the way, I take responsibility for this.
Oh, yes.
I was CEO for 15 years, and so I managed the company's public-facing processes and how we were portraying ourselves. So he's saying he didn't do enough in the past. That's not political on our part at all. We know that what we saw, he's talking about January 6th, we know that what we saw was fundamentally wrong, and it was rooted in hatred, disrespect, and contempt and intolerance. Iger followed with a call to lean in more to projects like Coco and Black Panther, saying that he had allowed himself to get self-congratulatory and complacent rather than building on those projects to push further projects championing diversity. So basically, the political trend Disney was on, Bob Iger did initiate.
Yeah.
He said the thing that happened January 6th was evil and horrible and wrong, and it's not political at all to make this stance. This is what's right to do. So we're not being political. We're just taking a stand, except that is being political, and you're taking a stand against people who aren't evil or aren't all the things you're spewing because they just happen to have the opposite viewpoint of you politically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just thought it was funny that it's like, oh, for all his talk now, Bob Iger was the one that set Disney on the course they're now on.
Yeah, no doubt. And we talked a little bit about it back when all the news broke, especially when Chapek took over, and it seemed to be dwindling and spiraling out of control and getting worse. And yes, while we even on this show blame Chapek, because again, he was the CEO at the time, clearly the strings were being pulled, not being pulled at behind the scenes, but being pulled in that direction long before Chapek came along.
Well, again, when you see all the creative talent that was sent packing from Disney, it's easy to see where it all started.
No doubt. Alrighty, guys, I think that's going to do it for our headlines topic. Let's move into now our final segment. Like discussion segment. I didn't know what I was going to say. I lost my words there. Every once in a while, you get a brain fart. You're supposed to play it after.
I play it when I want.
Don't play it when I roll the open. Don't you do it. Here's our multimedia segment. He's gonna do it.
Multimedia.
Multimedia.
He's got it. There's his finger. I know he's gonna do it. Look at him.
What'd you do?
Tricked you.
See, that was good. Threw a new one in there. I like that.
Curveball.
Wow.
Yeah, we got some good ones on there. I like that. So you gotta mix it up every once in a while.
You know what might be working on a PlayStation soon?
Oh, that was a good transition. I like that. That was good. Good segue.
Halo.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe.
I wasn't even gonna start with that one. My gosh, hold on. Hold on. We're jumping the gun. All right.
That's where the gun starts. Actually, they did a poll, and PlayStation fans are actually more excited.
Gears.
The title that they would be most excited about having on PlayStation is Gears of War.
Oh yeah.
And I'm with you. I mean, look. Okay, so look. Let's rewind it a little bit.
Yeah, rewind.
So last week sometime, in fact, I think it's supposed to be this week that Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, is supposed to have a presser or
He
at least
said
an
that
announcement.
they would announce something this week.
Yeah.
because
they would have a formal meeting or a formal, I guess, event.
It's their
announcement
plan moving forward
because
for Xbox.
So basically, some internal docs were released last week that announced that internally they were talking about putting certain Xbox exclusives on other platforms, third-party platforms, and even competitors' platforms.
Yeah,
and all this came to light once there was a non-AAA title. It was an indie title that already was confirmed long before this internal memo leaked. That was a exclusive for Xbox, was now being ported over to other platforms, especially including PlayStation. And then also there is talk now, and I think confirmation, that Starfield is coming to PlayStation.
Yeah.
Starfield got lukewarm reviews back in the fall.
Yep.
Has not sold well simply because there's not a lot of Xbox Series X and S consoles out there.
Ain't nobody buying it.
But I believe, I'm not sure, fact check me on this, I'm not sure, is Starfield available on PC or is it coming?
Yes.
I think it is.
Yeah.
It's
No,
available on PC.
it launched on PC.
Yeah.
So that's right, because it was on Steam.
Yeah, there's more
That's right.
more people have bought it on PC than Xbox.
I think,
and even then,
I think
more
all
people,
of Xbox's exclusives are PC and Xbox.
Yeah.
They typically are, but sometimes the PC
The window
release comes out later.
Sometimes,
It doesn't always come out in tandem. I think it depends on the developer.
Because it's Game Pass. They're all Game Pass day one, and you can do play that on PC.
Oh, that's true.
So
that makes sense because it's Microsoft Studios because they own Bethesda.
Now.
They do.
Yeah.
Now.
And that was their first big launch title was a Starfield. So everybody's thinking, okay, this was supposed to be like one of your major releases. That was a major, like you bought the whole studio.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the people who did Skyrim.
Yeah.
One of the greatest selling games of all time.
Well, originally Starfield.
Elder Scrolls 6 is on the roadmap.
Yeah.
Even if it's 10 years out.
And
apparently.
Fallout.
Fallout,
yeah.
I mean, you have a huge developer here that has a chance of creating exclusive games for your console that will be a system seller. But now, even after its first exclusive releasing on your platform, doesn't sell all too well, or worse, it doesn't get the enthusiasm you were expecting it to generate for your platform, you can start to see that they're starting to shift the messaging of Xbox is now becoming a service more so than hardware. It's becoming software more than hardware.
And I think it's funny after the Starfield debacle, because that was supposed to be on PlayStation and Xbox until Microsoft bought Bethesda.
Right.
Then they said no, it'll be an exclusive, and then it didn't do well, and now they're like, well, no, maybe it'll be both again.
Well, and here's the weird thing. Rightfully so. I remember when that happened.
Yeah.
And in my mind, as pissed as I was thinking, good on Microsoft.
It's brilliant.
This is the competition we're looking for in the games industry to keep innovation alive.
If you're going to have a console war, then yeah, you have to have exclusives on both sides, except like you've said now, Xbox seems to be taking this stance of, well, we're not really about selling consoles. We're about selling the service, selling Game Pass, selling the games.
But it's also interesting because for the longest time, up until they're buying out these huge developers, it's interesting that they themselves, they have mainly had only the main two exclusives that I can think of are Halo and Gears. I mean, yeah, you have other indie titles.
They have some they let die out.
Well, you have some that started out that way. Titanfall was one. Then Titanfall 2 was released on everything.
Forza, I would say, is another big one.
Forza is a huge one. Forza is a huge one.
It's
kind of killed. I don't want to say killed Gran Turismo because Gran Turismo sells really well. But in terms of mechanics and play style, I think it's outdone
there's
Gran
more
Turismo.
to do in Forza than there is in.
But they had others that they just properties that they don't utilize anymore. Fable, which they were going to bring back.
It's still working on being worked on.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, like, that was a exclusive that they just let go to the wayside, and then they're like, oh, we can bring that back now. Was Crackdown an Xbox
Crackdown
exclusive?
was Xbox exclusive.
That was a big
Sunset Overdrive.
I remember Crackdown being huge, and then the last one was garbage.
Sunset Overdrive was, I think it was a Sucker Punch game.
Yeah.
Until Sony bought out Sucker Punch.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, which, granted, it's still an Xbox exclusive, but it's like all of their major first-party studios, or when they became first-party studios, other than the, I mean, major successful ones being Forza, Halo, Gears, that's it. Mm-hmm. Most everything else has been like either third party or multi-platform.
Yeah.
So it's like, if that's the case, I mean, it really does beg the question. I mean, is this the end of Xbox in the sense of, does it become just like Xbox, Live, Game Pass?
Yep. I honestly, I don't know. I mean, we'll find out at some point this week. I honestly, for a time, have believed that they're just going to make a streaming box. I know their next Series X, Slim, or whatever it's going to be is a digital-only device. They're not making one with a hard drive. I can see them even in the future, next generation, going one step further and just saying, no, this is the stream Game Pass, and that's it.
See, and I think that's odd because I'm like, where does... I mean... Okay, they have Surfaces. They have their little flip phone tablet thing. I don't even know what it's called. I forget what this Microsoft Duo or something like that.
Maybe, I don't.
But I mean, even their Microsoft Studio is like, it's not an iMac killer. I mean,
no.
They've gone in so many different directions with hardware Surface is probably their most successful hardware line. And even it is not it's by far not like a favorite among like laptop enthusiasts.
Yeah.
If you're going to get something that kind of doubles as an iPad/laptop. I mean, it's really weird, but again, most of my problems I would say is probably with Windows mixed with their own hardware. But the weird thing is I feel like Xbox hardware has always been the standout amongst Microsoft hardware.
It's been like the only thing that they've made that's actually really well made.
And yet almost ever since the 360 era has passed, the debacle of a launch that was the Xbox One that immediately cemented them in behind PlayStation, it's like they just have not been able to recover.
Yeah.
And the Series X and Series S, I feel like, while wasn't a bad idea, I think the internal downgrade of, hardware in the box itself for the Series S to then
it was stupid.
and also removing the disk drive and saying it's a digital only. I felt like most people were kind of like, how is this even an entry point into wanting the next gen gaming experience like right out of the gate? I could see that as maybe like year 2, year 3 launch and saying, hey, it's going to be really cheap and granted it still offers all the same catalog of library that you already have or that you want, but then you loosen the specs to get the lower price point. But even from a PlayStation standpoint, it's like it came out with digital only and a disc, but that was the only difference out of the gate. And I just find it interesting because I'm like, you already have this instance of you are a software company. And your bread and butter is how you modify your software to work on platforms across all types of instances. One, Steam is huge. It's a huge platform in and of itself on, running on Windows, running on Mac even.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, depending on what capability games can run on Mac hardware. But even then, it's interesting because Steam, I think, has taken a little bit of that glory that Xbox has somewhat reclaimed with their own offering of just being able to get PC games in general, and you download it and it's playable, whether it's from the Microsoft Store or Steam. But that's where I'm kind of like, what do they have going forward, even if Xbox is a service, except for the first party exclusives? And yeah, that may be enough for just the software side of things and not to support a hardware side of things. But yet, the hardware they were putting out is just basically a PC anyway.
Yeah.
So why can't you just build your own freaking mega powerful PC that you can run these games in ultra high spec on, and then either buy it directly from the developer or go and download it on Steam? I mean, again, what's the angle here? I don't get it from Microsoft. I really don't know.
I mean, I couldn't say. That's why I said we'd have to wait to see more from what they release. I do think just they're going all in on Game Pass more so than just the console itself. Whether that means they try as hard as they can to get Game Pass. They've been mentioned Nintendo in the past. They mentioned trying with Sony in the past. And it's if they're no longer considered a threat in the console war, maybe Nintendo, Sony are more open to having Game Pass on their platform. Maybe not, because obviously Sony wants to sell PlayStation Plus, so they don't need a direct competitor already on the console. It's just interesting to me that the idea that they're going to make Xbox exclusives available on all systems just kind of screams that, hey, we're not getting the money we thought we would selling consoles. Let's sell the games and get the money that way.
Well, even when the prices for PS5 and Series X were announced, it was clear that they're not making a huge profit. In fact, I think even the Xbox at one point, they were at a loss.
Yeah.
They're making an $800 machine and selling it for $400. It was a big loss, but what they were counting on was you getting the machine and then paying for their monthly service for the rest of your life.
Same thing PS3 did for the longest time.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think at some point though, I would agree with you, and in a sense that I think maybe even PlayStation eventually hardware is not going to matter as much as long as your hardware can connect to the internet and have a good enough speed to stream. I think that's where it's going to be at. And I think Google and Amazon with their stupid Luna thing, I think they envisioned this, but they envisioned it way too soon. I think they envisioned the what was the Google thing called?
It was a Stadia.
Stadia, yeah. So the fact that you don't have to have a $500 device on your TV stand,
power.
You just had the power, right? And I think that may be the future. I don't think it's quite there yet, and obviously it wasn't there with Stadia and Luna, but I think that's where I see it going.
I think too that the reason PlayStation, I think it kind of sucks because what I would love, for one, looking ahead, absolutely Gears, Halo. If Halo freaking drops on PlayStation, that is not only going to just be an absolute mind-blown moment of seeing that. I mean, just growing up knowing that was what sold consoles for Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From Xbox to Xbox 360. It would be mind-blowing. But also, and what I absolutely buy them. I mean, I already have the Master Chief Collection on my PC, but I would buy it again on PlayStation in a heartbeat because it's far more comfortable to sit in my recliner. Playing on a 65-inch TV is absolutely way better to enjoy it that way. But I think Microsoft kind of gambled. Look, no doubt in anybody's mind they've got deep pockets. I think they gambled a little too late. They bought up these great developers that were more in the business of making games that sold. I mean, how many reviews have we heard from people who it's not that they hate Bethesda games, they enjoy them, but they've said ever since like Fallout 3 came out back in the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era, that their way of doing story in games and decision making and the gameplay, it was like the mechanics have been outdated for a decade, but yet the game sold. They had a successful model. So it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But then you have Microsoft come in with their big cash book. They know the value of the company. They know the brand. I mean, this is like, to me, the same as Apple wanting to get in the Apple TV game and go and buy, get all these major production houses, or major productions done by huge names like Scorsese and forgetting his Napoleon. Ridley Scott. And it's like, but yet you still have to have the substance more than just the name.
Yeah.
And I think Microsoft swooped in a little too late to buy up these third-party studios and make them first-party in-house studios. And really, it's like, not only does it take time to establish that brand, but you're talking about, we're on the 5th generation of PlayStation. There are certain titles or certain franchises that began on the PS1 that still live in not only nostalgia memory, but also have spawned from studios new IP and new experiences that are beloved and made the platform a household name in that regard. They're known for their library of first parties that, even if you have 1 or 2 a year, but they're absolute must-haves. Your God of War, your Last of Us, your Ghost of Tsushima. You have Spider-Man. I mean, you have all of these IPs that can only be played on one platform. And I think if Microsoft had thought about this and really been bold and done this 10 years ago, right as the Xbox One was coming out, especially when they stepped in it during that launch, they would have given themselves enough time over this past decade to establish certain tentpole franchises and exclusives that would be bar none and compete with PlayStation on a one-to-one level. And I think right now they tried to buy their way in to get a seat at the table, and yet it's like they just bet and they put all their chips in on these huge purchases they've made over the last 2-3 years. And I think when you've had just so-so game after so-so game released from these third-party studios, you realize that, these are not the first-party studios that we got under the Microsoft banner, as they were the third-party studios when they had grit and they had something to prove, and they were making games that were for the fans and for people who would, it's like, no, once the payday came and once they kind of became and the studio ballooned and Microsoft swooped in and got them while they were hot, it's like, they've kind of sold their soul and their identity isn't there anymore. And I don't know. I think it's a little too late. I think Xbox as a service is a good idea. I mean, I really liken it to Sega, what happened with the Dreamcast.
Oh, yeah.
PS2 came out and just trounced it. The Dreamcast sales dropped, and Sega pretty much just came out and said, all right, we're going to be a publisher. We're not going to make consoles anymore. We're going to develop for all platforms, and we're going to sell Sonic on every single freaking screen you can look at.
Yeah, and there's money to be made that way.
No, absolutely.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
That's, to recoup what they spent on Bethesda, you would almost have to put it out on every platform.
In fact, I think you can. Correct me if I'm wrong. There is a Game Pass app on the iPhone, isn't there?
Yeah.
And you can stream your Game Pass games to your phone with like a backbone.
Your iPad.
Yeah.
You can stream it to your iPad
and play with a controller.
I've done that. I've played on my iPad.
So, I mean, there's easily benefit to them providing it as a service, and I just think Xbox as a whole goes from being hardware to software. It'll be interesting because I still think even in those terms, because if you think of what Game Pass is today, it's a lot of great deals, just like PS Plus, where they have third party included. You still have to have a library that's worth having a subscription for.
Yep.
And so you still, based on the investments they made in these first party studios now, or they're now under their umbrella in first party studios, they're still going to have to produce games that are worth the service.
Well, I think the other thing that they have that Sony just does not have is the infrastructure. I mean, you can play without any hiccups Xbox Game Pass on your iPhone, but you can't stream PlayStation games on your PS5.
Very true.
Without it being in 720p and it's stuttering terribly.
I
You're playing
remember
at a 15 FPS.
They shouted from the rooftops when they bought Gaikai back in the PS4 era, and it was like, oh, it was going to be a revolution in game streaming. And I'm just like, no, the fact that, I can't stream.
You can't even stream remote play in higher
that's
than
why they brought
720p.
out the PlayStation Portal.
Yeah,
so you got to buy
that's selling great.
Yeah, you got to buy a whole. Well, and the fact that now even, which we don't have to get into this, but they're even talking about another PSP.
Yeah.
I'm like another portable
successor
version
to the Vita. Yeah.
But an actual and I'm like, so
It's
basically
supposed to be
you're
a
gonna
PS4 in your pocket is what they're saying.
you're gonna pretty much just render like anybody's PlayStation Portal obsolete.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Just ridiculous. That's So I think we kind of summed it up there. I think Xbox is going to become more a service than hardware. Tell us what you think, though.
I'm looking forward to it. I want to play Starfield so bad, but I don't have a PC I can play it on, and I don't have an Xbox. I don't want to pay for Game Pass to play it on my phone. Now, if Game Pass, I could play it on my PS5 on my 85-inch TV, sign me up.
Yeah.
But right now, I can't play it that way.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like Starfield, and then, of course, Elder Scrolls was going to be a sore spot for me, because when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out,
I was kind of with
and
you.
I'm sitting here thinking, I am not buying an Xbox to play that game.
Well, and it's weird because I was waiting for one game to be a system seller for me that would make me pull the trigger and get a Series X or whatever console they came out
at the time,
with.
yeah.
And then
They haven't.
But that's the thing. And then be able to get the back catalog of those other games, like the Halos and the Gears. Heck, I freaking bought my boss's old Xbox 360 just because I wanted to play Gears. And thankfully, I got it in time to where I could buy all 3 Gears. I'm not talking about Gears 4. I know it's included, but it's kind of apart from the trilogy, I guess. But I was able to buy them on the 360 store, which is shutting down in the summer of this year. So it was like I was able to get them real quick and snag them, but it's like if I had an opportunity to buy them on a platform that I know is current and also it's the fidelity is better.
You know they'll be remastered.
Yeah. I mean, I would much rather, do that. But while I kept waiting for that game, it just seems like I think Xbox has really let me put it this way. I think the marketing in terms of even this generation, they have done their best. I think they have put out their best. I think they have tried as hard as they could to right the course of the debacle that was the Xbox One era. And I think they tried everything they could to get people amped up and excited for what was to come. But sadly, the first-party exclusives that were promised, they have not delivered in terms of quality and obviously not in terms of quantity that have made them, happy about the purchase they made of those developers. And now they're kind of in a boat of like, we've got to figure out a way to make money. The best way to make money is to take this and put this content out there where we know it will sell, even if it's half-baked or even if it's a 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. There's people out there who are willing to pay it, and they'll pay a decent price for it on a different platform that they're not going to buy an Xbox for it, though. So, we'll see. But right there at the bottom of our screen, tell us what you think. Email us at rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com, or as Keith likes to say in a better fashion,
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
I'm telling you every time, man. It's just, I tell you every week, shiver up my leg, man. I can't help it.
Ooh.
Oh, all right. And,
All right, Dan.
And the other way you can reach out to us, like, share, and subscribe on all of your favorite social media platforms. They're right there at the bottom of your screen. Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on X, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and, of course, search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube and on Rumble. That's right. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next week, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new
Sean
host,
Sebastian.
And
I've discovered myself again.
you are...
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.